Hello, this is Kevin Annett. It's June 2nd, 2014. I'm speaking on behalf of the International Common Law Court of Justice. I'm speaking to the policemen, to the security forces, to the politicians and judges of the world who protect the Vatican and the Crown of England and their horrendous crimes against children. We're making an offer to you today, an offer of general amnesty and even reward if you come forward and do the right thing and stop protecting these criminal bodies. So I've been authorized by the International Common Law Court of Justice to make this following announcement and offer to each one of you. As I speak, the men you've been sworn to protect are standing trial and have been indicted for the murder and trafficking of children all over the world. These men include Pope Francis Jorge Bergoglio, Jesuit leader Adolfo Pichon, the Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby, and many others. They are standing trial now, in absentia, for these crimes, and every employee of the Vatican and the Crown and Church of England, every one of you, will be considered legally complicit in these crimes once they've been proven in our common law court of law. So this is an appeal to all of you, to the insiders of these murderous organizations, to come forward and do what is just and what is right, and to spare yourselves prosecution and exposure for your complicity in these crimes. The court is therefore making you this one-time only offer. If you come forward and name the names and provide evidence of those responsible for these crimes, and can verify the involvement of Pope Francis and others in the murderous Ninth Circle sacrificial cult, you will be granted a general amnesty and will not be prosecuted for your involvement in or knowledge of these crimes. This general amnesty also extends to any citizen who comes forward with that same kind of insider knowledge. In addition, the court is willing to pay you up to 10,000 euros each for any of such insider information leading to the conviction of these criminals. You may contact the court prosecutor's office to take advantage of this amnesty offer and the reward offer by referring to the emails and phone numbers at the end of this broadcast. But know this, those whom you have sworn to protect are monstrous criminals who have the blood of innocent children on their hands. The truth of their crime is being revealed. Those who do not stand with justice and the innocent will fall with the guilty, with the heads of these murderous churches and governments. You have already been released from your oaths of allegiance to these men by a stand-down order issued by our court against any employee or agent of the Vatican or the Crown of England. You have been lawfully ordered to stand down from your allegiance to these criminal bodies. So you are now free to do the right thing. We then call on you to search your conscience and to act on that freedom given to you today. We await your answer.
Yes, we are. We're here. We need to call for investigation for Tuesday, June 3rd. And I'm proud to say that I have a lot of people on the line. I have Patricia, I think she's on the line. Are you there, Patricia?
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, and also have Stu Webb. You're there?
I am here, and I want to thank you for having me, Don. It's always my pleasure to be on with you and Patricia.
Mm-hmm. And then we're going to have a special guest, Kevin Annett's going to be on a little bit later, but right now, Kevin, are you just say hi?
Hi, I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Okay. Good enough. So, Stu, give you a report. I know you've got lots of things happening and a little time to tell us. So,
well, you see my screen share there?
I'll get it to you. Okay, hang on. I'll get it to you here. Give me a chance. Okay, go ahead. I'll do the screen share here. Okay.
Make it possible for me to hear.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Are you able to see the screen? My screen.
Yeah, I'll get it up. I'm getting it up. Hang on. Okay. I'll do it here. Go ahead right now.
Okay, the big thing is, of course, I've got my own radio, 2 programs, one on Mondays at 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern and 1 to 2 p.m. Central on Wednesdays. and 2 different networks. And they're at the top bar of my website. It's the Web Veterans Today Radio Archives. Everybody can find the programs there. Second, I'm loading down a lot of new information. I've got my website really secure and tight, and I'll be having a full-blown report. It's taken 2.5 months to identify the enemy, our enemy, which is Israel, and the Department of Homeland Security operating with organized crime here in America to target First Amendment rights of journalists and such as yourself, TV shows, programs, and people would be able to get the IP numbers to be able to put blocks inside their web servers to be able to get back control of their own websites, because basically they're redirecting links on people's sites. Maybe you might come to a particular link on your website 3 times, and out of those 3 times, 1 of the times you will be redirected from where you came from. So they're doing that to people, as well as the fact that they're doing the slow down websites where they won't load properly and other things, and they're affecting people's commerce. It's against international law. It's against the cyber terrorism laws. I understand that because the report's already gone to the FBI and we have a new director, that they're looking at this very seriously, and there will be additional arrests. There have been 5 arrests as a result of cyber terrorism, intellectual properties, 5 Chinese. That's sort of related to what I turned over. I'll leave it at that. Now, we'll put my website up at the top.
That's what's up, is your website is up, okay.
Underneath the left column, Don, if you scroll down, this is vitally important today. You scroll down the breaking news column until you get down at the very bottom of it, about halfway down the page. It says Veterans Today Breaking News. Directly below it, 911 solved. Bush and the Israelis did it by Gordon Duff. Gordon has been working for a number of years. Many of us have. Gordon has just released, with the help of not only all of U.S. intelligence threw in, and the documentation he's acquired over the years, but it proves that the nukes went off in the buildings on the day of 9/11. They have the stolen nukes. They found that during the Bush administration, Bush Sr., Daddy Bush administration, along with the Clinton administration, so that means Clinton was involved, they allowed them to steal briefcase nukes out of Pantex down in Amarillo, Texas, and those nukes were shipped to the Ukraine, where Russian intelligence picked up on it, etc. And then, of course, they were the ones that were used on the day of 9/11. This details. This is the Israelis, and this is the Bush crime syndicate. Did 9/11, and the proof and evidence is here. Thanks to Russian intelligence giving us a couple final pieces that were needed to prove this. Now, all the proof and evidence is in a series of stories where it says 9/11 solved. Bush and the Israelis did it by Gordon Duff. It's here over the past week and a half. There's more coming. I will add them to that section, direct section where you can find them on Veterans Today. If you want to come to my site and find them, I'll put up each and every one of them right there, because this details very significant what has happened. No more of this energy stuff or free energy and all these conspiratorial theorists and the Arabs did it and all this. They can prove now the Israelis did it, and they can prove that Daddy Bush did it. Did 9/11 along with Cheney and Bush Jr. So anyway, come to my website. I'm loading up again, folks. Tons of stories are going up. I've got several of them that you might look at that I don't even have it on my website. I have it later today about toxic mold in America and how it's killing people. 50% of the people have it. You've had on Dr. Croft before. I have several other stories on bank bailout. I'm doing a series explaining all the details of the entire fraud that went on with this bank bailout. And that's going to be over a 60-day period of time. I've got people that are being locked up. Got a woman that's a widow. Her house gets paid for. Insurance company, and she gets thrown in jail for 2 years after she fought them after they tried to steal her home, steal it back after the insurance had paid off the mortgage. It's an ongoing, continuous crime. They've stolen 12.5 million people's homes. They have written over $100 trillion with the artificial mortgages, and they have derivatized them up to $5,000 trillion and took over the economies and used the money to take over the economies of the world. It's the Israelis here in America, and it's the Bush crime syndicate. And what we need to do, folks, is we need to jail these people. I might also add that Gene Chip Tatum, former CIA whistleblower, Iran-Contra whistleblower, has formed BACTBA, www.batva.org. Go up on my site, in that left column, you'll see BACTA. Right below, there's stories on 911. And you'll see the link there. Just click on it and take you to it. That's Veterans Against the VA. He has started a national organization. They've already got 1,000 people in Miami who have signed up and joined forces to enforce the VA to do the proper thing. And out of this, we're going to use these veterans across this country because the so-called patriot community doesn't have the guts,
Right.
or the American people do not have the guts to stand up and put a stop to this tyrannic government, crime syndicate, but veterans do, and we're going to become a political force in this country now.
Right now I have a picture up of
I
it.
can't get too much into detail, but I guarantee you that people all across this nation have been calling. The phones are ringing off the hook. We paid them to join forces. So I guess it's going to be the veterans who will pick up the tab. We have the military on our side. Now it's the time to get all the ex-vets, and maybe we can clean it up. Because the American people want to sit around their friggin' computer and punch buttons all day and email their favorite stooge story that they find on all these stooge news organizations, so-called alternative news organizations, and they don't find the truth. With that said, I'm through with my report for the day.
Oh, really? Okay. That's a quick report.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for your report. Okay. Well, that's great, Stu. I did have a picture up there of what happens when you have an office fire. You saw all the big explosion, all that white stuff just blows out of the place when you have an office fire. And it also destroys cars below and takes buildings down. So that's what really happened. That's what we've been told. So I guess that must be what the situation really is here. Okay, Patricia, you're on here.
Okay.
And Kevin.
Kevin will be in shortly, I imagine.
Kevin, you're there too?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, great, Kevin.
Okay, good.
So,
If he's ready to go, do you have a preliminary report that you want to put in? And then I have some questions for you if you'd like to take some questions.
okay, well, anyway, and Kevin here, let's see, I'll get you here. Okay, hang on a second. I'm doing all kinds of things. Go ahead, Kevin. And by the way, so you're offering amnesty now, amnesty to the churches. I mean, aren't the churches supposed to give amnesty? I mean, what's going on in the churches? I mean, we got a problem there, you think, brother?
Well, kind of the general story is for the last couple of years, I've been working with the Common Law Court in Brussels, and we brought one case already against the Pope, the former Pope Benedict, the Queen of England, and others for genocide in Canada. The second case happening right now has to do with global child trafficking. We've named the present Pope and others from eyewitnesses, for example, who saw the present Pope help traffic children when he was a bishop in Argentina. So we're definitely trying to get insiders to come forward with more evidence and information, and that's the reason we issued that amnesty to them.
That's something else. So anyway, I guess for people who don't know you, you've got quite a history, and maybe you want to start at the beginning and bring us up to date.
Well, for me, it started about 20 years ago. I was a Protestant clergyman on the west coast of Canada, and in my work with Aboriginal people, I began to discover that a tremendous number of their relatives had died in these Indian boarding schools, which were run in both Canada and the U.S. by the mainline churches and the governments. And the more I began to do the investigation, just listening to my parishioners, the more I realized that this was an enormous crime that had been concealed. And when I pushed the matter with the church, I was eventually fired and thrown out of the church altogether. But I began to work more closely with these survivors after that. All of our evidence eventually forced the government to admit some of this stuff. Just the other day, the government in Canada admitted that tens of thousands of children did die in these schools, which I've been saying for almost 20 years. The reason they died... Yeah, at the Indian residential schools, they died en masse because they were being deliberately exposed to disease and then never treated. They were using these places to wipe out large areas of the country of Native people. And we proved that. All of the evidence is up online at hiddennolonger.com. And we went there to working in other cases, showing that the same kind of crimes are happening all over the world.
For 796 babies, they're found the skeletons in an Irish home for unmarried mothers. Through of the years of 1925, I guess, to 1961, they collected 796 baby skeletons.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that's
terrible.
just one particular area.
Yeah, it's really horrible. It's you find this stuff all over. As a matter of fact, I was invited to Ireland 4 years ago. We held a conference in Dublin in 2010 and formed the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State. That's at itccs.org. You can look at all the back files there, all the evidence, showing how this is really a global phenomena. It happens because, for one thing, children are grabbed and trafficked for a lot of money, especially by the Catholic Church, although other churches do it too. And it also happens in the government child protection system, where there's a lot of money to be made for grabbing kids and then trafficking them to orphanages and foster care and all that. So, unfortunately, there's an even darker side where these children are also used in satanic rituals, farmed out to rich child rapists and things like that. So we're beginning to uncover all of this evidence.
That's just terrible. I mean, I can't believe this.
It also
Who would ever do that?
My twin son, he was kidnapped. So when we have some time and are allowed to communicate, I tried to call you, by the way, Kevin, repeatedly to be able to talk, and I could not get through at all.
Well, I'll be sure to, if you email me your phone number, I'll call you. I'm often not at that number, so I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great because we've got a lot to discuss, and not necessarily for the show, but evidences that you might want to follow through on, or check up. Okay. Anyway, please proceed. I want to hear from you.
Well, it's to give an example of some of the things we've uncovered. We're finding that one of the most common ways that the children are being trafficked today is through the government child protection system. In the United States, we have over 150 volunteers now who are investigating this and have volunteered as common law sheriffs to investigate how these children are disappearing. Probably over 100,000 children go missing every year in America. They can't be accounted for. We know, like in Liverpool alone, in Liverpool, England, over 1,000 children disappeared last year. That's in just one city. So this is a massive underground industry, and it has the collusion of judges, social workers, police. Yes. And we're finding this time and again that it's one of the reasons it's hard to uncover these things, because it's right within the system. It isn't just a bunch of random abusers. It's a whole organized network.
Indeed.
Something else
it goes way back, and then very much protected by a lot of the attorney firms through Bar Association, etc.
That's right.
So where are you with the court case on the upper echelon in Europe?
Well, I was actually in Europe last month. On April 7th, this common law court case was convened. It's the second case that's being tried by this court. The first one having to do with the murder of these Indian kids in Canada. The second case named the present Pope Francis, Jorge Bergoglio, and the head of the Jesuits, a guy called Adolfo Pachon, and the head of the Church of England, Justin Welby. All three of them were primary defendants because eyewitnesses described seeing all of these people at satanic rituals where children are being killed. Now, this is a hard thing for people to grasp at first, but if you go to our website, itccs.org, if you go back to May 8th, 2013, you'll see a 2.5-hour interview with a woman who was born into the satanic cults in Holland. Her name's Toos Nienhuis, and she has inside evidence. She observed these ceremonies happening where children were tortured and raped and killed as part of a satanic ritual. Now, there were top echelon Catholic officials involved in this, and from evidence that the court has acquired recently, insider documents from the Vatican, there's a thing called the Ninth Circle, and this is a satanic network operating within the Catholic Church, and it's responsible for, at least in that part of Europe, for a lot of these crimes, and it involves members of the royal family. As a matter of fact, the royal families of Holland, Belgium, and England are all involved in this. We have that as well from a Belgian member of parliament called Laurent Louis, who came forward last month and accused the government of the royal family of involvement in this network. As a result, he was arrested. He's facing prosecution now for having done this, even though he's a member of parliament. Yeah. So, I mean, this stuff is gradually breaking out all over.
Yeah, we've got to back each other up with the evidence. All too often they end up in mental hospitals or, the like, and under solitary confinement, on and on.
That's right. And, especially when you're taking on these high-level officials, the court has had to operate in secrecy because it's being threatened. There's actually a group that was dispatched from the Vatican through their spy agency to try to shut down the court. We've had to be very careful about how we operate, but we have so far had 8 eyewitnesses describing the involvement of these 3 men, including Pope Francis, in these cult rituals, and also an insider in the Argentine military government who describes having seen the Pope when he was a bishop in Argentina, Jorge Bergoglio, having seen him at meetings where they were planning how to traffic the children of political prisoners being held in their jails. So, this stuff is all out there now, and we hope that during the year there will be another verdict coming down, at which point we're going to then look at enforcement, where we will deputize the police and swear in common law sheriffs to enforce these, whatever the verdict is.
Mm-hmm. So this is such good news to me. I've been fighting it for, since 1973, and many different things. Even the kidnapping of my twin boy, was never allowed to be registered. When trying to even go to missing and exploited children site, they just basically they hang up on me. And much of the information when trying to just gather the evidence. But through the years, some parts and pieces have come together. Are you familiar with the pedophile connection to Princess Diana's death?
Yeah, I've heard different accounts of that, definitely. One thing we are learning, like from what you mentioned as well, we had a couple of sources in New York City come forward. I just spoke to them last month. I sat down with them, and they describe how at a very senior level in the government in the United States that these kind of things are going on. As a matter of fact, this woman described knowing the places where these houses are, where the children who are kidnapped are taken and literally held in cages and then sold like cattle to pedophiles, to satanic ritual perpetrators, things like that. So this is happening as we speak in America, and we're documenting where these places are and when these rituals are taking place.
I tried to point out a particular house in Ballard, Washington, in the Seattle area, and absolutely nothing was done about it. People would drive in, they'd press a button, drive into the garage, and not appear to ever drive out again. So they were going somewhere. That's one big garage.
Right.
But I also traced them back to an attempted kidnapping. So the police would do nothing, and you name it, it didn't matter what I tried to do. Even with the Green River killing, most of those girls were, teenagers, and they called them, seasoned prostitutes in the newspapers. Yet, if you trace back, they were so young, and that was another matter of the pedophile network.
That's right. I'd very much like to talk to you, Patricia, so you can just write me. I posted hidden from history 1 at gmail.com as my email, and I'll call you right back if you send me your number.
Emailing is very much of a difficulty for me, extreme difficulty, because of broken arm. And
I'm sorry.
Anyway, that's not all that happened. But anyway, I'm doing the show no matter what. But what's important is that perhaps if we can talk on the phone, we can get a lot more accomplished.
Definitely, yeah. If you call that number, actually, right after the show, I'll stand by and pick it up. I'm here at that number right now, so that
Okay.
the
I'll
number,
try.
the 250 number, yeah.
Yeah, will do.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got some tremendous things happening finally. I really appreciate your report on the common law gaining such ground, because I've been trying to push for that. Don Grahn is a very key person to the initializing common law in Seattle, and we've really fought hard and long to get people to realize that is what this country was founded on. Yes, they wiped out records as of the late 1888, right around there, to try to obscure it, and they replaced the judges and went to admiralty law, but it existed from the inception of this country. So if getting back to the original paperwork and anything that was left after all the fires clear across the country, we have tried to reconstitute the common law as much as possible. So I really appreciate any assistance with that.
Well, that's exactly right, Patricia. You know, we put out a call for common law volunteers. We over the 300 or more that have responded, over half of those are in America, and a lot of them in the Midwest. So people who I've spoken to, I've spent a lot of time in the States, and they all say the same thing, what you just said, that this is a way to restore the republic, to get back to the roots of what America once was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to go back to those roots. I mean, they were good roots, weren't they? And it looks like they've been poisoned. Monsanto and company and others have seen that they get the root killer out there, or weed killer, and try to do away with the roots that make us strong and supplant us with things that are harming us to death. I mean, isn't that about right?
So now our key is the sheriff. We have a lot of volunteers. What if the audience wants to participate and train to be able to help? How do they, proceed?
Well, the easiest way is to write to the headquarters of the criminal court in Europe, and they farm out the names of people to the local organizers. We have people in 31 states in America now, and organizing local common law, either education groups or actual courts that they're trying to convene. So people can write to, it's itccscentral@gmail.com. That's itccscentral@gmail.com. And you can also leave a message at my phone number, and I will get it. We take all the messages. 250-591-4573.
Get that down. What was that email address again?
The email address is itccscentral, as one word, itccs, like Sam, itccscentral@gmail.com. The number is 250-591-4573. And just leave a message and we'll get back to you.
Now, does that include the people who are interested in being able to form their common law court?
Absolutely. I'm actually the field secretary for all of North America and Western Europe, and I coordinate all the different groups along with a few other people. So yeah, I will immediately connect folks to those in your area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've been telling people that, we've got the paperwork substantiated, we've got answers for their questions, all they need to do is contact us. Well, I've had a significant problem with AT&T, in other words, whatever phone company, doesn't allow the questions through. So I asked them to please contact Don, but contact someone and proceed with the common law court, because there's the real answer of how to deal with these problems.
That's right.
Yeah, we got to get together on this, and essentially we have review panels and things to review what's happening wrong, and use grand jury and other things to get things square online here. So, anyway, but citizens review panels are good to review problems that come before any kind of a board. and we can see the propriety and if there's any wrongdoing, and then go to a grand jury if we need to. So, okay.
Okay, people, so all you need to do is start taking the first steps, and you'll be surprised how it'll come together, because a lot of like-minded people are realizing we've got to do something. This is what you can do.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's right. I also wanted to mention that at that website of ours, the tribunal website, itccs.org, if you go into the right-hand margin, you'll see a little bit down, it'll say Community Training Manual, Common Law Training Manual. And if you go on there, there's kind of a brief introduction to what the common law is, the history, and how to go about setting up a court. So that's a good resource to have at itccs.org.
Yeah, I've tried repeatedly to do that, and they've stifled it. But that's terrific.
Okay.
So, how are you doing? What's coming up next? What type of time frame are we looking at for decisions to come down? Can you fill us in?
You mean with the present case in Brussels?
Right.
They're right in the midst of the case right now. They don't have a lot of resources, so they're going very carefully. They're corroborating all the evidence, cross-referencing the documents and all that. It's going to take a number of months. When I was in Brussels, I spoke to some of the people working with the prosecutor's office, and they said they imagine in the fall sometime when the verdict is going to come down, because more people have come forward, and so it'll probably be in the fall when the case is finally, when there's a verdict. But we'll keep everyone posted about that.
Yeah, I appreciate the update at any time. So we've got a lot of things happening, people, and you may have felt powerless until now, but you're not. You're not powerless, and yes, you've been stifled, not being able to get some of the information we wanted to make available to you. You have not even been able to buy the books that we have out for you to be able to buy. And don't worry about that. It's been stopped for a reason. Some of this information is so powerful, it gets to the absolute core of what's going on. And, of course, pedophilia is definitely part of it, because that's been used as an absolute tool for so much. Well, you can fill us in, Kevin, on how much it's been used as a tool for bribery, coercion. It goes on and on.
Well, that's right. As a matter of fact, there was a newspaper in Washington, D.C., it's called the Rock Creek Free Press. About 4 years ago, they came up with an article where the CIA admitted that they run child brothels all over the world, especially in Thailand, where they use young children to sexually blackmail visiting congressmen and senators, on these sex junkets to Bangkok. And they openly admit they do that. And so, it's definitely used that way. It's also used as a way to control populations. I mean, if you're traumatizing a lot of children at a young age, they're going to become, very subservient. They're not going to challenge authority. I think it's part of a whole bigger agenda of population control. And also because it's very lucrative. They make a lot of money trafficking children. There was an example of that last month when I was in Europe. I stopped in Barcelona, Spain, and met with people who as children, they're middle-aged or late middle-aged now, but when they were children, there were over 300,000 children trafficked under the Franco dictatorship by the Catholic Church. The nuns and the priests would grab these kids, tell their parents that they had died in the hospital, and then traffic them for $40,000 to $60,000 each. So in that one incident, the Catholic Church made over $20 billion in that one thing. They've got it all documented, and it shows you how massive this industry is.
Mm-hmm. Well, even CPS is paid a finder's fee, basically, and sometimes they take a child from a very fine home, and because it's been, the finders wanted that child, and they were offered a pretty good price, and CPS gets, $7,500 or something like that. I think a little bit more of it's blonde hair, blue-eyed. Yeah, we've traced right through, and in the U.S., in the Maple Leaf school system, right there in Seattle area, they said that they were training people, or the children, with a internship program. But the very location of this internship, there was no evidence whatsoever of any local businesses having an intern from that school. But what did come out loud and clear was that they were being used to traffic drugs. They would go to a local restaurant, a known druggie would meet with a child, and then all of a sudden the druggie was all happy and went to the bathroom, etc. You know, it was just very blatant. And when trying to trace this through, the only training that they were getting was rather illicit, and the state funds were paying for that school, not to mention other schools. And it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what Kevin is talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it gets even more insidious. There was
Really?
We found in Canada and in the United States, there's a thing. The Catholic Church has an arrangement with a lot of local hospitals to when a young girl gets pregnant and she's not married, she'll immediately get counseled to go into one of these Catholic homes where she's basically brainwashed to sign away her child when it's still in the uterus. It's called the BFA protocol, Baby for Adoption. And with the BFA protocol in hospitals, the mother is isolated from the baby as soon as it's born. She's given lactation suppressants. She's basically brainwashed to think that she's not going to be a very good mother. And they then take the baby and they get a quota every month from the adoption agencies how many babies they need. Catholic Church markets these kids. You know, I often say naturally they're pro-life. They don't believe in abortion because it would cut into their profit margin, because they're a huge baby trafficking business. And that's what we're finding out all over the world.
Well, look at who gives the licensing for the foster parents. In other words, who's in control of who can do what in that entire market? The Catholic Church.
Yeah. That's
it's
right.
a pretty convenient position to be in, to be able to control exactly what's what.
Yeah. Well, also, when you're absolved from any, the Catholic Church is above the law. That's the way it operates in America or anywhere. I interviewed Aboriginal women in South Dakota, who this one woman saw a Jesuit priest murder a baby and bury it under the floorboards of a Jesuit school in 1971. Wow. They went to the FBI. The law firm, and tried to get them to intervene, and they said, no, we can't dig under that school without the permission of the church. Well, since when do you go to the serial killer for permission to dig under his house, right? But,
yeah, true.
It's crazy the power they have.
And it's all over the world. It's much the same thing. It's really convenient to hide the evidence right on their property.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I didn't mention that the 796 babies, the so-called graves of that, had to do with the nuns. In other words, Catholic Church.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah, with
I know.
County Galway, Ireland, and let's see, Bone Secure Nuns in Tuam, Tuam.
Tuam, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got relatives near there.
Oh.
It's just phenomenal what they have been allowed to get by with, and they have front people that make them look good, and yet what's happening at the Vatican over and over throughout the centuries, way back, there's been a definite problem. And notice that in the Catholic Church, if a pope gets in there that actually tries to do something right, such as in the 1763 era, they disbanded the Jesuits for a little while, they end up dead.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a definite problem for the ones trying to.
One way to get to heaven, I guess, early.
Even as recently as 1978, there was a guy in for a month and he died in office, John Paul I. He had ordered an investigation of the Vatican Bank about its money laundering for the mafia. He was dead in 27 days, poisoned, and then everybody who worked with him was dead within about a year and a half. So this is the way the mob works. When I was in Rome the last time, an Italian politician told me that the thing that people don't understand is that the mafia, the Vatican, and the government are all the same people.
Yeah, they all work together. They all shake their same hands and sleep in the same bed, I guess, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, and take a look at juvenile courts. Who is actually running? Like in Seattle, you will find that it's very Catholic. Everywhere you turn, it's Catholic this, Catholic that. And the coordination, as I just said, even from licensing, goes back to the Catholic Church. And when you have juvenile courts, they have their own special rules that one person decides what the parent's submission will go into the courtroom or not. Right there, you've got a huge problem. She's playing judge and jury with the actual submission from the parents and getting by with it. But the Catholic Church backs her up, therefore she gets by with it.
Yeah. I remember a quote from John Adams where he was talking about when the Jesuits were reestablished. He said, "I fear for our country more from the threat of the Jesuits than any group."
That's right.
Yeah. The Secret Terrorists, there's a book called The Secret Terrorists, and that has all that stuff in there. So,
they also own Citibank and the Bank of America. They're heavily invested in the arms industry and Monsanto and all those lovely groups.
All those money-making groups that are out to get all they can and leave the dregs to us. And okay, go ahead.
Okay, so what can we be doing, with this show to help you? Grant you funds are not an option. Don can fill you in on how, even if I think people try to assist, then they are attacked so badly. They're trying to push us off the air for years, although I'm going on my 12th year on TV, radio, and radio prior to that. So, with God, all things are possible. No matter what they've tried, it hasn't worked. So we just keep going. Right, Don?
Yeah, that's right. And if you want to donate, you can donate to J&D Consultants, 12345 Lake City Way Northeast, number 133, Seattle 98125. Anything you want to put in there would really be of benefit. It all goes towards the shows, and we really need to support. We're just one little voice here in the in the far cry from what's really going on there. So,
Well, I find that the grassroots approach is how we operate. I go around a lot and just organize groups and communities that operate below the radar screen until they're big enough to come out publicly, and we find that's a good way to operate. I'm actually coming down the West Coast, and definitely stop in and talk to you folks more.
That's great. Look forward to it.
Wonderful. Well, I'm not there for multiple reasons, but anyway, but you can talk
I'm
to
right here in
everybody
Seattle.
else there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. The more communication, the better. And the more I'm finding, the more people that they've tried to cut off communication, they're the very people that we really need to communicate with, and we can share a lot of information.
Yeah, we need to break the chains and understand what's really going on with people that are in power that are somehow not as wholesome as we'd like them to be.
Okay, so I suppose we should get on to a little bit of the news. If you have any comments, please, by all means, Kevin, do pipe in. So let's cover some of the highlights at least. You, as usual, will find the archives with the news on it. And I know normally this is a news program, but we've got some other things happening that are so intense. I think you can tell by the people that have been on. So be sure to check the archives, because there's no way I'm going to cover everything that's
check our archives
and we do have a list of the Bilderberg, the information and their actual agenda is coming out. What, Don?
Yeah, we do. In fact, about Bilderberg's, my show Truth versus News is going to focus on the Bilderberg report this week and next with Ole Damagard. It's going to be a good show. If you want to catch that, Thursdays at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. and at 1:30 in the morning on Monday mornings. It was really awesome. And Kevin, I really appreciate you being on the show. We'll have to have you back.
Thank you.
And give us updates on what's really happening, because it looks like there's a lot of stuff that really needs to happen, and let's make it happen. It's time for us to get together to do it. I mean, not enough of this talking and sitting on the couch. We got to get up off the couch and get to moving, because darn it, we're going down otherwise.
I appreciate it, and I'll be sure to keep you regularly updated. We can do more interviews for sure. And Patricia, I'll be sure to call you right after.
Okay, I will just complete the news and then be right with you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Very fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, folks, we've got you've got to watch your retirement accounts. Basically, the theft of your retirement accounts will accompany the seizure of bank accounts. Please do what you can to protect yourself. It is coming up very shortly. We've been saying it and trying to get you prepared for quite some time. Well, anyway, going along with, quote, global warming, we had the first 5 months of 2014, coldest on record in the U.S. Okay, that doesn't quite match, does it? Snowden has challenged NSA to release his emails. By all means, I've challenged them to do that same thing. And what's interesting is they are scared to release my emails to me.
Ah, really?
Well, Snowden asked him to release his emails, and I agree with him. All he's asking is his own things. So trouble adjusting to sexual assault may be calling U.S. military members booted out without VA benefits. In other words, they're trying anything to discourage the actual report. And the reports of sexual assault go way back. I mean, decades back.
Probably way back before even this country was born. I bet you there's been problems throughout the centuries. I can't imagine humans doing this to.
In the Second World War, my mother explained, she was in the Navy, that it was a definite, difficulty. They thought nothing of it. Oh yeah, ride the waves, type, attitude. It's very flippant, and you're going. That is not giving a person basic, constitutional rights. Oh, because you're a woman, it's different? I don't think so. And or a man, either way, doesn't matter. Okay, so we have, and one other thing, you need to talk about the VA hospital, big scandal, and of course Obama knew, 2008, way back he knew of what was not happening at the VA. This is decades old also. They have done this, my parents should have had, they're both, vets, and they should have had hospital rights. They always had to have their own insurance, or they had to, pay for their own hospitalization, etc. If they didn't, they definitely didn't want to count on the VA. So that tells you, folks, this goes way back. Okay, bombshell, supposedly. Federal Reserve pays no taxes. Big surprise. You're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars, by the way.
But they make it, so they don't have to pay anything. Because taxation actually is just a sham.
The same thing long ago. It's not like something new, but at least it's getting out and getting known instead of being called conspiracy theory. No, just trace the facts.
Just coincidental facts that seem to add up to raising questions that can't be answered by ordinary means.
Well, and when we've got journalists, like the next article, journalists argues that in New York Times that publishing decisions should ultimately be made by the government.
Oh, that's called censorship. Where's the freedom of the press there? That doesn't sound quite kosher to me. What kind of journalists would argue that?
The box to guard the hen house and report on it.
Yeah, I mean. Essentially,
to responsibility for the coup and mass murder in Ukraine. Interesting. He admitted to it.
But on this journalism thing, the freedom of the press, that's the only thing that's really in the Constitution, is about the press is the only occupation or industry in that Constitution. And if we don't have a free press, we ain't got any freedom. The government
you don't have freedom.
So this is very important, folks. So,
yeah, freedom of speech is the very basic communication.
If we don't have that, we might as well just bend over and shut up and...
well, anyway, China's vast censorship machine to wipe out Tiananmen Square crackdown on popular memory. That's another article, but what's funny about that is that is nothing new. The U.S. has wiped out Bonnie Prince Charlie's contribution, the Stewart's contribution, you name it, the contribution of the original presidents before George Washington. They've wiped that out, and they think nothing of it. They rewrite history all the time. That's why we need to get history back to reality.
Reality and history, they're supposed to be lining up to the truth of what really happened in history, because oftentimes, who made the biggest improvements in history, folks? It's the writers. The writers, they took history and made a fit to whatever need they had to do for the victors to claim victory and have things. So there's a big battle going on between the truth and what's history and what's written and media and things. So that's how we're here, folks. We're just a little body that's just trying to struggle here and get things.
You don't get rid of the very person who's a critic or so on. Yep. Like Japan, they moved the nuclear critic from the regulation authority in Japan. Where are your checks and balances if you get rid of the person who will actually get you thinking? Yeah. You need to, delve into that. Oh, speaking of delving into, that Colorado 4-mile long landslide?
Oh, yeah, they had a huge one there.
Traced back to fracking, folks. Fracking.
What's a frack? What's a frack? What's happening in this country anyway?
Find out more.
Oh.
It's not at all surprising.
Fracking's crazy.
The first question I had with that Washington slide was that traceable to fracking? I still haven't had any answer on that. So all these mudslides, let's find out more. Okay, U.S. Vice President Joe Biden challenges graduating Spanish Air Force to promote the New World Order.
Oh, yeah, that's what they swear an oath to, right? I swear an oath to perform for the New World Order people and do whatever they say and bow to them, and that's what my oath is for. Instead of defending something called this Constitution, defending against all enemies, foreign and domestic, like Vice President saying things that are treasonous. I mean, maybe there should be some call to action there.
But I do appreciate that Spain is making some progress. Their Spanish court makes the first conviction of bankers since the start of the crisis. Good going, Spain. Keep up the good work. Whoever censored you'll find that it stops with air instead of Air Force. Anyway, for the graduating class, somebody censored that section, Don, if you can fill that in. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, I see. The next part is further down. They're playing games all the time when I'm trying to get this done.
Okay.
They'll bounce the cursor wherever they want, and then I have to find it, and then go check back. Anyway, they're playing games. Okay, Greenwald to publish the list of U.S. citizens NSA spied on. Boy, that ought to be huge. And how many days ago was that? Well, anyway, let's, in other words, see it, not just what they're going to. Just do it. 227 million Americans could be held on the foreign or the federal database, metadata or whatever you want to call it. 227 million. Let's see. We have how many children? And 330 or 350 million, somewhere in there, on the entire population. What?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Something has something better to do.
99% of people, or even 80% of the people here must be awful people that they need to be on the database to be supervised and snooped on and everything else. We're all just a bunch of real rascals, real criminals just asking for it here. Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like the statins can do more harm than good for terminally ill in the last few months of life. The doctors even claim it, statins. So look into it, find out more. Don't kill your loved one with kindness, sort of, to say. Well, anyway, men who receive radiation therapy for prostate cancer more likely to develop rectal cancer. Look into it, please. Most doctors who are terminally ill would avoid aggressive treatments such as chemotherapy, despite recommending it to their patients. How dare you?
Hey.
Anyway, treat others as you would be treated.
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of times, even you think you don't have any money to treat cancer, just try the soda, 10 cents a day, and it's a whole lot better.
Sodium bicarb, yeah.
Yeah, just...
it's a penny a day.
pH balance, keep your body pH...
Alkaline.
Cancer can't survive in that.
Yeah, just like moths can't survive on the south side of trees,
Yeah. Man gets a $5,000 pound nose job paid for by the National Health System in the UK, but they refuse to fund cancer care for a 5-year-old girl.
Something smells with that one.
That's for sure.
Nose job and over. Oh, How about
Huge
that?
medical discovery. The scientists find that coronavirus inhibitor blocking MERS and SARS. They say they don't have any solution for it. Let's look into it.
Yeah.
Okay, Bilderberg actually talks nukes, and you've got the information on the Bilderberg list.
Yeah.
Going. Okay, that's good. In other words, they're deciding your future, folks, whether you live or die, literally.
And this was not brought up in the news at all. Nobody, you didn't see this anywhere on the American news except from a guy named Alex Jones and his people. And Ole's going to give a report on that too, Ole Demogard. So I think it's important about our future and what's really happening behind the scenes that somehow the media doesn't want to get involved in. I don't know. That's something that'll.
Why not?
Like I say, who does the media serve, and who do the people in the Air Force serve in other places?
Yeah, this is another matter that the Fed is printing trillions of dollars for free. In other words, they're trying to push the country over the edge faster than fast. They've got a definite agenda for doing it, folks, whether you like it or not.
Just trillions of dollars? Oh, that's wonderful.
For free, yeah.
Yeah.
Such a deal. Just ruin the country. Yeah. Anyway, according to them, I guess. Okay, Google chairman Eric Schmidt and others attending Bilderberg's lunch captured on camera. So, Google, I think you have some answering to do. Denmark journalist harassed by airport security and police for filming Bilderbergs in public. That's nothing new. They don't like to be known. It's all secret, folks. Secret. Pre-Snowden tech firms and NSA were buddies. Emails are disclosing. You bet they were buddies. Yeah. You can count on that. I watched it happen.
Okay, anything you want to do to wrap up the show today?
Yeah. Well,
we had a full show, folks.
A lot more.
So much you got to watch this twice, upside down and backwards, and everything else to get it all here.
One thing I would like to note: if you think you own your stocks and bonds, think they are yours through your broker, you are wrong. Federal Reserve, aka DTCC, is the owner of all stocks trading. You are a beneficiary of your stocks unless you decide you are not.
Yeah.
Just you also need to keep in mind that the same thing with RTC, and they've got a couple of the names they use for it now because we brought that up before. It's just like your house, your vehicle, etc. You don't own it. You only have the certificate of title. You don't have the title. They do. In other words, they own everything, including you. You are on the stock market also.
That's right.
That's the way it's set up at this point in time, folks. It's time to change it back to sovereignty, that you are an individual with rights, further rights than a corporation.
Amen. That's right. Thanks so much for watching, folks. It's been a great day, great start to June, and you got to get up and get going. It's really time to activate your body and your mind and everything else to find out what the truth is and not what the media is trying to distort it into. So thanks for watching. Call for investigation. Be aware, be alert. We need more alerts. God bless.